There are youths that are selling the illusion and the June 25th agenda that we have to wait till June 25th to hold a vigil and to demonstrate in the anniversary of the youths that were gunned down in Parliament on June 25th last year. I tell you categorically why the finance bill still introduces new taxes and why you should not listen to the government propagandists led by the CS Treasury, John Badi. 1. The finance bill of 2025 introduces the new natal tax. This is a tax on pampers and it is a tax on newborn babies. This finance bill introduces a tax on pads and essential goods. So the price of bread, oil, and essential goods in this country is going to hike. Do you really want that as a citizen? That joining the current political parties and the political establishments is not going to cure Kenyans and Kenya from the political problems we have. This was the position of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga when he decamped from KANU and formed his own party. This same conviction is shared by Raila Odinga. He walked away from the Ford party, he walked away from KANU, and in all these instances, he started his own parties because he understood he is the bearer of vision for his political outfit. And his voice will never count in a party that does not belong to him. This has also happened to the current president, William Ruto. William Ruto walked out of ODM somewhere between 2007, and that is how he launched the URP party. Uhuru Kenyatta himself launched the TNA party in cognizance and in realization of the fact that he cannot control a party that is owned, funded, and run by someone else. It is the same conviction that Gachagua shares in. Gachagua understood and he understands he cannot run the UDA party as he would want, because the UDA party belongs to William Ruto. William Ruto was among the key proponents and sponsors of the UDA party. He owns that party and he calls the shots. And that is why Rigathi Gachagua did not attempt to reform the UDA party. Instead, he formed his own party, the DCP party. So who is deceiving the young people? Who is fooling the young people that they can join political parties that belong to the very problems of Kenya, the old guards, and reform them from within? Who is this that is lying to Kasmo that he can reform ODM? Who is this that is lying to Wanjiku Thiga that she can reform the DCP party? Who is this that is lying to Angel Budhia that she can reform the Jubilee party? At best, these youths are pawns in a political system that is bigger than them. The Jubilee party is owned and run by Uhuru Kenyatta, and he will decide who becomes governor where, who becomes senator where, and who becomes MP where. He has the veto powers to issue direct nomination tickets to whichever candidate he deems fit. And the youths, the likes of Angel Mbuthia, can do nothing about it. The DCP party solely belongs to Rigathi Gachagua. Wanjiku Thiga is a pawn in the DCP party. She cannot influence the nomination and the ticketing of youths in that party. She can only give an advisory opinion, but beyond that, she cannot take any action, she cannot coerce, and she cannot force the party leader, who is Rigathi Gachagua, to give direct tickets to the youth of this country, to directly fund the youth of this country, and to hold free and fair nominations in all positions, because I can promise you that in the presidency of most of these parties, there is not going to be a nomination. And that in the senatorial and gubernatorial positions, there is not going to be a nomination. Because Gachagua akiamua, this is the DCP gubernatorial candidate for Kiambu County, for Nairobi County. That is what sells. That is what carries the day. It is non-negotiable because the party belongs to him. So can we consider setting up one political party or a coalition of political parties that belong to the young people, so that we can counter the already established political parties in Kenya? I am submitting to you that we do not have a shortage of donors and sponsors all over the world that are willing to support young political parties that belong to youths that are fighting for a better country. So can we form our own party or several parties, then and join ourselves in one coalition, a coalition of the young people? Because we have the numbers and we have the votes. So why should we be fooled, deceived, enchanted, and forced to join the already established political parties that are family businesses for certain veteran politicians in this country? Can you wake up and open your eyes? Who is this that is deceiving you, that you cannot form your own party and you cannot fund it? It has been mentioned before, and it is in the public domain, that most of the youths want to vie independent. If you knew how challenging, how difficult it is to vie as an independent country as an independent candidate in this country, you would not even consider that. It is an option. I am not ruling it out. But before we get to the last resort of vying independent, can we organize ourselves into one political party that becomes the center of power for the Gen Zs? Now, as I have told you, I would want to make myself absolutely clear that most of us have lost the morale to demonstrate, to fight, and to petition bad governance. But all is not lost. We can regain our mojo, we can regain our space, and we can come back with a strong resolution to demonstrate, to petition, to fight till we get things right this year. And no one should tell you that we do not have reason to protest. We have a punitive finance bill that is about to be tabled, and we have a draconian budget that is also about to be tabled. So, there is enough reason to demonstrate. Let me dig into the finance bill and into the budget as I conclude, because I want you to understand why we have reason to protest. And before I get to that, I want to ask you, surely there are youths that are selling the illusion and the June 25th agenda that we have to wait till June 25th to hold a vigil and to demonstrate in the anniversary of the youths that were gunned down in Parliament on June 25th last year. Tell me, reason with me like I was Karen Nyam. Why do we need and why do we have to confine ourselves to the demonstrations of one day, June 25th? And will it bear the results that we need? Will one day solve all our problems? Is June 25th the panacea of the Kenyan predicaments? Will it solve all our problems? If we suspend all demonstrations and decide to only demonstrate on June 25th, will that solve all our problems? Who is this that is fooling Kenyans? That we can only demonstrate on June 25th, and it is the only valid day for demonstrations. If I remember, the demonstrations of last year started somewhere between June 5th and June 10th. So why do we have to wait till June 25th? So let me tell you why we need to demonstrate as early as today and as early as this coming Tuesday, because I have already put out a poster in collaboration with other youths for a scheduled demonstration that is supposed to happen this coming Tuesday, and we are unrelenting, and we will ensure we remind this government that the Gen Z movement is not dead, and that we only hibernated for a short period of time. We went for a short break, but we never gave up the fight for better governance and for accountability. The Finance Bill of 2025 has truly raised the political temperatures in this country, and it has split the opinions of this country. There are some that argue that the Finance Bill of 2025 does not introduce new taxes, and instead it focuses on raising revenue and sealing the loopholes through which we've lost taxes in the yesteryears. But that is a total lie. Behind that facade of a finance bill that does not introduce new taxes is a punitive finance bill that indeed does introduce new taxes. Why, you might ask? I will tell you categorically why the finance bill still introduces new taxes and why you should not listen to the government propagandists led by the CS Treasury, John Badi. 1. The Finance Bill of 2025 introduces the new natal tax. This is a tax on pampers and it is a tax on newborn babies. As a Kenyan, do you really want such a tax? Acknowledging how difficult it is to raise children in this current economy. The Finance Bill of 2025 introduces a digital tax through which the government imposes a 20% withholding tax on all monies realized from digital content monetization. As a digital content creator out there, do you really want that? I have seen digital content creators come together and marshal support to object their delegitimization from using their brands to advertise betting sites and gambling. But I have not seen our digital content creators come together to fight the finance bill. I have not seen them give us coverage to elaborate and elucidate on some of these contagious issues, yet they affect them directly. So I'm asking our digital content creators, do you have your priorities right? I understand you make a living from advertising, gambling and betting, but have you forgotten that the government is interested in taxing you to the tune of 20% of every cent you make from digital content creation? Are you satisfied with that? Can you perhaps consider holding a joint conference and inviting some of us to talk about these issues that are in that are in this finance bill? Because we are losing the script. This finance bill introduces a tax on pads and essential goods, a 16% tax to be precise. As a girl child, do you really want this tax? Do you really want this finance bill? Sanitary pads in this country should be issued for free to all women and to all girls in this country. Yet, the government is interested in taxing the same sanitary pads. The government has forgotten all too fast that these were among the contentious taxes that Kenyans came out to demonstrate in last year. This same finance bill has revised the classification of taxes on essential goods in this country? In a way, and to be precise, it has revised the zero-rated essential goods into tax-exempt goods. When Kenyans at home learn of the term or get to hear that there is a tax exemption on goods, they think that these goods are not taxable and that tax does not apply to these goods. But they are wrong. A tax-exempt good is charged tax and raises tax. Revising goods from zero-rated goods to tax-exempt goods raises tax on these very goods, the likes of bread, milk, oil, and such essential goods that were previously zero-rated. So the price of bread, oil, and essential goods in this country is going to hike. Do you really want that as a citizen? Do you really want to buy bread at 100 shillings or 70 shillings? Because bread is still the staple breakfast in this country. Let's face it, ndoma na ngwashe is very expensive. It is not for the common mwananchi. The common mwananchi consumes mandazis and bread in the morning. Nyinyi mnataka kupandishiwa bei ya mkate na mandazi. The budget itself is still as punitive and draconian as the finance bill. But someone has encultured the Gen Zs that they can only reject a finance bill, that they cannot reject government undertakings, that they cannot reject opaque PPP contracts, and that they cannot reject the finance budget. Who is this that has deceived the Gen Zs that we can only reject the finance bill, but we cannot reject the budget? Tell me why we need a budget that slashes funds allocated to the Ministry of Health by 73 billion shillings. We do not have a free healthcare system in this country because in most government hospitals, you are still charged for testing, laboratory testing, and for drugs. So how free exactly is our healthcare? This same budget has slashed the education budget by 62 billion shillings. In a country that pretends to offer free day secondary education and free primary education, do you really enjoy that free education? The CS for Treasury has hinted into pushing for the cost sharing of the financing of education between the government and the Ministry of Education because they do not want to fund the Ministry of Education. In fact, they hate it that you Gen Zs are this literate, that you are this learned, and that you understand issues. They are systemically ensuring that the generations behind us don't get to school, and they are scrapping off free education. So do you really want that budget that scraps off free education? And as I conclude, a budget that does not intentionally fund the vulnerable in this country is a budget that should be rejected. Who has told you that we cannot reject a budget? We can send our MPs back to the drawing board. We can ensure they get back to draft a better budget for us, because this budget is not ours, it is theirs to loot. Tell me why this government is so comfortable dishing out 2,500 shillings to the elderly. Tell me why this government is offering petty stipends to the disabled. Tell me how this government really provides for the unemployed and for the vulnerable in this country, because we have seen it happen with other governments. We've seen governments that take care of their homeless, their needy, the street children, the old, and the disabled. Really, if we are to be honest, a budget that does not cater for the elderly and for the needy people in this country is not a budget that we should support. So I am challenging you to consider rejecting the budget Because what would happen if we rejected the budget? This country would come to a standstill. The powers that be would listen to us. And they would come off the high horse. And they would want to do right by the Kenyan people. They would reconsider that budget. They would give us a better budget. And they would take our priorities as important. Because their priorities are not our priorities. The priority of the Kenyan population is free education from the primary level to the tertiary level. Our priorities include and are not limited to free healthcare in all government hospitals. Sadly, that is not the situation. So why should we have this budget? Why should we give the government an opportunity to continue overtaxing us, misappropriating our funds, and stealing from us? What would happen if we rejected the budget? What would happen if we all came out and spoke with one voice this coming Tuesday and the days after that, and ensure that the government takes into account our grievances, our petitions, and our submissions? I am challenging you to absolve yourselves from the comfort zone, from the relaxation, because the struggle is still not yet done, and we have not achieved what we said to achieve. I am reviving the Gen Z spirit. I am reviving the revolutionary spirit, and I want us to rise up, and I want us to fight. Because this country belongs to us, and it is our future that is being stolen as we watch silently. If you cannot come out to fight for yourself, please come out to fight for Generation Alpha and for the generations that are behind us. Because people came out to fight for the independence of this country. Soldiers and revolutionaries came out to fight for the second liberation, for multipartyism, and for a better constitution. Don't you want to be remembered fondly by history as a gallant soldier who came out to fight for a better country, who came out to fight corruption, impunity, an oppressive tax regime, and an indifferent regime that does not care for the needs, priorities, and does not care for the urges of its young people? Asanteni.